What's up, everybody? Monster Master Godzilla here, and I'm here to begin a new marathon. So, may the 4th be with you guys, because we're beginning the Star Wars-A-Thon. Now, for this one, I've been thinking about either thinking about reviewing them in release order or chronological order. But, well, fuck it. I'm doing it in release order, as respect for the true hardcore fans. Now, where can I begin? I'm starting with A New Hope. Now, this is one of the biggest, Star Wars is one of my biggest passions as a child. I've been a fan of Star Wars ever since I was a kid. I love the original trilogy. I love the prequel trilogy. And I even love the sequel trilogy and a lot of the spin-offs. So, I mean, I will get a lot of hate from some Star Wars fans for me doing reviews of this. But I'm sorry. I'm just that true fan of Godzilla, that true fan of Star Wars where I just don't care. I'll just review them. So now I'm beginning with A New Hope. Yes, there's one that's Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Or simply just Star Wars, when it was first released. Now, it was a 1977 film. Yes, I wasn't born, I was non-existent when I saw it. It was on VHS when I seen it. And it was on VHS. And when I saw it, I have the Blu-ray DVD combos, which are special editions. Now, A New Hope is the very first entry in the Star Wars franchise. When it was simply released, it was simply called Star Wars. Now, it began when the rebels are in a war against the Imperials, which the Imperials are the villains, which is the Empire, is what it's called. The rebels are called the Rebel Alliance, and they have many people who are involved in it, including Princess Leia, which is one of the heroes of the film, and she was played by Carrie Fisher. Rest in peace, Carrie Fisher, who died back in 2016. And my God, I was heartbroken hearing about Princess Leia passing away, because she was in my childhood, and I was so shocked to hear that. So, here we go. And then there was the two droids, C-3PO and R2-D2, which those are the ones that are a duo of droids. And Leia was sending a message to Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is a fugitive Jedi. The Jedi are, in case you don't know, are warriors that carry these weapons that look like swords with a laser, which had a laser coming out of it. They're called lightsabers, which those are awesome. Like, I always dream of myself being a Jedi, and their powers they use is called an invisible energy. Calls it the Force. Now, there are two sides of the Force, light side and dark side. And the Jedi master the light side of the Force. But there are some that use it for evil. So, in this case in point, the main villain of this movie, named Darth Vader, which Darth Vader, he masters the dark side of the Force. And you later find out that he was once a student of Obi-Wan's, who was a fallen Jedi and then became a Sith Lord, mastering the dark side of the Force. So, Leia was acts like she was part of the Imperial Senate, but really she was a member of the Rebel Alliance. And she gets taken away by Vader, and she has the plans for the Death Star, which is the name of the weapon that has a destructive capacity to annihilate an entire planet. And so the Anakin. She gives the Death Star plans, blueprints to R2D2, and he sent the message to Obi-Wan, which both C-3PO and R2 end up landing on Tatooine, which is a desert planet, and they both got captured by Jawas, which is those hooded little guys, which are those like this, whoopee, and which they carry scraps and they walk around trying to carry scraps and find droids. So then Luke was like living in a, and then we end up meeting Luke Skywalker, played by Mark Hamill, which you remembered him as the voice of the Joker in the Batman animated series. So Luke Skywalker ends up living in a moisture farm. It's revealed he was raised on a moisture farm with his Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, which they raised him, and he doesn't know his father or his mother. He was just raised on the farm. So, and he ended up learning the truth, and he ended up meeting Obi-Wan Kenobi, who revealed, and he ends up meeting both R2 and C-3PO. So he and Luke end up becoming best friends then. So C-3PO and Luke became friends, and they end up went on a search for R2. But when they end the search for R2, they end up getting attacked by Tusken Raiders, which they call them Sand People. And the Sand People, they're riding on those goat-like creatures called banthas. And the Tusken Raiders they all make noises like this. And then after Luke got attacked by the Tusken Raider, Obi-Wan ends up coming to the rescue, who ends up going by the name Ben, which Ben Kenobi to be exact. So then Obi-Wan ends up meeting up with finding Luke, and he meets R2. So then R2 is showing Obi-Wan the message from Leia, saying, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope. Which he was supposed to be the one to save the whole universe, or the whole galaxy. But he was the last hope until Luke was there. Turns out Luke is the new hope. So then they found out. So after Luke and Obi-Wan found R2, and they ended up returning to they and C-3PO end up returning to the moisture farm, and only to find out that the moisture farm is destroyed. So then Luke ends up going with... So Luke, R2, and 3PO end up going with Obi-Wan. And they end up going to the canteen, which that had a famous music that goes... do 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 do, which the music is really groovy. And sadly, they don't serve droids because they were forced to stay outside. And the stormtroopers, they were on the hunt, trying to find the. And after that, they end up meeting Han Solo, played by Harrison Ford, and he's always seen with this huge hairy creature called Chewbacca, played by the late Peter Mayhew, who was a guy in a suit, and he passed away as well. And the actor playing Chewbacca is actually 7 feet tall. So Han Solo ends up meeting up with Obi-Wan and Luke. And he's actually the captain of the Millennium Falcon, which is one of the most famous starships in the Star Wars universe. So they end up meeting. So then after they meet up with Obi-Wan, they end up leaving the canteen because of the stormtroopers coming after them. Sadly, but then Obi-Wan got a little sidetracked, ended up meeting with another bounty hunter. Ended up meeting up with a bounty hunter named Greedo. And Greedo is one of the bounty hunters sent by Jabba the Hutt, which is one of their villains. Which Jabba was this huge slug-like creature. Originally, Jabba was depicted as human and spoke English. But sadly, that idea was scrapped, and it became this huge slug creature that spoke in different language. So after Greedo was killed, after Jabba and his and the bounty hunters end up meeting up with ends up having a discussion about that, and after Han has finished having his talk with Jabba, all the bounty hunters left, and Boba Fett, which is this bounty hunter made out of in Mandalorian armor, makes a small appearance, but he ends up getting a big role in these sequels. After that, Han ends up joining the crew, and they end up going to the Millennium Falcon. And then they end up getting tailed by a spy, and the spy ends up calling the Empire, ends up calling the stormtroopers, or where they found those rebel scum, and then they end up escaping the stormtroopers. Then they later encountered the Death Star, and the famous phrase that they said about the Death Star is saying, "That's no moon." So they discover the Death Star, and then Leia was forced into telling the Imperials where the rebel base is, and it's Dantooine. And after she was telling after she told after she told the stormtroopers where the Empire is, where the rebel base is, they end up destroying Alderaan, which you would think that they would spare her planet after she told them, but nope. They end up destroying Alderaan, and she was held prisoner. So then Luke and Han end up posing as stormtroopers, and they pretend that Chewbacca is their prisoner. And they had a funny moment together where Luke was saying, "I can't see a thing in this helmet." And after they snuck in, Luke ends up finding Princess Leia disguised as a stormtrooper, and they had another funny moment together, saying, "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" So then after that, Luke ends up saving Princess Leia, and Han Solo and all come to the rescue. And when Han and Leia ends up meeting, the two of them were all butting heads, saying, "For now on, you should respect me and do as I wish. Do you understand?" "Sure thing, Your Highness." And yeah, in the beginning, you see that Leia was like being the spoiled brat, like a little bitchy princess. But they were all butting heads in the beginning, but eventually their relationship grew and grew and grew. Same goes with Leia. Same goes with Luke. So their relationship grows and grows, and they began to build friendship. And so then while after they escape, the Obi-Wan ends up taking on Darth Vader, and they battled until like Obi-Wan ends up getting killed by Darth Vader. So that's the end of Obi-Wan and Luke. So then after that, they return to the Rebel base, and they learn about the Death Star's plans, and they end up going to war, and they end up going against the whole battle in the Imperials with their Death Star, and they attack the Death Star. So Darth Vader ends up chasing after Luke, which he didn't know that was Luke in there, saying, "I have you now." So, and after that, Darth Vader ends up being like flown away, like he was blown away. But before that, Luke had a big moment where he heard Obi-Wan in his mind saying, "Use the Force, Luke. Let go," he says. So then Luke decided to trust in the Force. And now Obi-Wan ends up taking on. So then Luke ends up destroying the Death Star, and the Death Star is destroyed. For now. Well, for now at least. And after the Imperials are defeated for now, Luke and Han ends up going into the ceremony, and Leia ends up giving both Luke and Han the medals as being heroes of the galaxy, and they become new members of the Rebel Alliance. Now, would I recommend this one? Absolutely. If you want to get into Star Wars, this is definitely a great start. Because especially since this is part of the original trilogy. Now, that's all I have to say, folks. And as always, stay awesome, my Monster Masters, and we'll be continuing the Star Wars-A-Thon with Empire Strikes Back. And as always, stay awesome, my Monster Masters, and may the 4th be with you.